Ireland was a divided society in 1916, and some of those divisions are illustrated in the collections held here at UCD Archives. Mabel Fitzgerald's husband Desmond was arrested in the aftermath of the Rising, and like many relatives of prisoners, she inquired from the British Army as to the whereabouts of his possessions, in this case an overcoat, because she was worried that he would still need his coat when he was being deported to Britain. She wrote to the British officer in charge of these possessions at Richmond Barracks in Dublin. That officer who replied and wasn't sure of the whereabouts of the coat was a man called Second Lieutenant Robert Barton. Now, Robert Barton was from Wicklow, from a Protestant background. He was one of 3 Bartons serving in the British Army. 2 of them died on the Western Front. Remarkably, Robert Barton, within 2 years, would be a Sinn Féin TD for Wicklow. He was one of a number of people who were already nationalist in inclination, but were radicalised by the experience of the Easter Rising. We have another example in the papers of Owen MacNeill. MacNeill was Professor of Early Modern History at UCD and also Chief of Staff of the Irish Volunteers. Even though he opposed the Easter Rising, he was arrested in its aftermath and sentenced to life in prison. He wrote to his wife, Taddy, while on a train near Weston-super-Mare in England on his way to Dartmoor prison. And he wrote about his experiences, and he also mentioned that he was being guarded by a number of members of the Royal Dublin Fusiliers. One of the reasons why MacNeill was able to have this letter sent to his wife was because Private John O'Brien of the Royal Dublin Fusiliers, one of his escort, agreed to give the prisoners notepaper and a pencil so they could compose some letters, and he also agreed to post the letters for them when he was passing through London on his way back to Ireland. A week later, Mrs. MacNeill received a letter from Private O'Brien herself, who wanted to know whether she'd got the note from her husband, and also said that he was going to call around with it in person, but felt she mightn't like to see a man in khaki calling to her door. These letters are quite interesting because while in the aftermath of the Rising there was actually quite a lot of hostility between Irish soldiers in the British Army and many of those who'd taken part in the rebellion, it also shows that there were some cases not only of sympathy but also human kindness as well.